I'm John Patrick Lowrie. Probably you know me as the voice of the sniper in Team Fortress 2, or the voice of Pudge and Storm Spirit and a bunch of others. In Dota 2, I've been in Halo games. I was in No One Lives Forever, The Suffering. I've been in a lot of computer games. But mostly I am Mr. GLaDOS.
I'm McLain, and I am the voice of GLaDOS and the administrator in Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch in Half-Life 2. And I've done Broodmother and Death Prophet in Dota 2. He's done a lot more games than I have. And I'm married to him, and he's the person who's nice. And
She's the person who dispenses the deadly neurotoxin.
That's the essence of any good relationship.
Yes.
I'm Professor Elemental. I am a hip-hop MC and kind of nana. And I haven't really been in anything. I was in Phineas and Ferb recently for about a minute. That was good. Yeah, I'll be performing on Sunday night, doing a great big dancey hip-hop fun show for everybody.
Woo!
Cool. Okay, so since this is a Q&A, we'll go through, and if people want to just put hands up in the air, we'll point on people for questions, and we'll go from there.
Very fast.
I am keen! Go for it.
This is to John Patrick Lowrie and on the thing. What has been your most challenging voice work in the games you've done?
Well, the most challenging voice work, for me, I'd have to say in The Suffering, they had me voice 13 different characters. And at about hour 3.5, when you're trying to come up with those 12th and 13th voices, and then you realize that you have to die as all 13 of them. And you're trying to figure out, okay, how does screaming with a Boston accent differ from screaming with a Manhattan accent, differ from screaming with a Southern accent? And so that was challenging. From an acting standpoint, I think I played this guy named Harold somebody in Project Origin, Fear 2 Project Origin. Where he started out as this really tough kind of ex-Marine mercenary guy who then gets gassed by this weird government gas, and he ends up falling in love with a hallucination. And that was a lot of fun because, he goes from this totally tough guy to this, puppy love teenage dude who's just, completely unmanned by this hallucination. But I would think that probably in all voice work, the most challenging part is just keeping your voice from getting totally trashed, because so much of it is about yelling across battlefields and stuff like that. Fortunately, I've never had to be sexy. That's what she takes care of.
Or so he thinks. But I think what he just said, what John just said at the end is, I think the administrator in Team Fortress 2 is actually some of my hardest work, that and Broodmother. Because, my little spiderlings is really hard on your voice. So
that's the great thing. You come up with these great voice ideas, and then 2 hours later, it doesn't seem like such a good idea.
So the administrator does like 60 packs a day of cigarettes.
yes, she does, and I try to sound like a chain smoker, and she's always yelling. And so that, you have a 4-hour session as the administrator, and I'm really tired at the end of that. But I don't call it an acting challenge, I call it a sort of vocal health challenge.
But I think that, GLaDOS and Caroline and stuff is probably the most challenging acting job.
Well, GLaDOS more than Caroline, I think.
But that whole venue of, making one like the other.
Well, I think, when I did Portal, I was supposed to just sound like the computer-generated voice. And in a lot of ways, that was just mimicry. So I didn't have to act. I just had to sound like this computer. So in a lot of ways, that was easier. And then when GLaDOS loses her cores, then she becomes more self-aware, then it was harder. But when I realized what GLaDOS wanted, you know, it doesn't matter what character you're working on, when you know what the character wants.
And why they can't get it.
And why they can't get it and what their challenges are, then the acting questions are easier.
Fantastic. Gentleman in the front.
Yes, Blake?
This is to you, Ellen, and this is about Wish It Incorporated.
Oh, Wish It Inc. I should be plugging that. Oh, you're so good to bring that up. Thank you. Big kiss later. Don't mind. Don't mind.
He hasn't asked his question.
Yes. What's your question?
The question was, how did you get involved with Wish It Inc. and have you been enjoying it so far?
Oh, I love it. So the two creators are two young men named Nick Celentano, who is writer-producer, and Ryan Anthony Martin, who is director-producer. And they've done a lot of video work about different game characters. You know, they sort of they'll take a game character and then they'll just create something completely new. And they were fans of GLaDOS and the Portal games. And they contacted me and said, you know, we've got this project called Wish
Actually,
It...
they contacted your agent. Contacted Jane.
No, they contacted me first. Yeah.
This is what it's like being married to GLaDOS. Just saying.
They contacted me first, and I put them in contact with our agent, Jamie Lopez. And they said they had this project. They wanted me to play the fairy godmother. Ryan came up to Seattle and told me more about the project and handed me this script that looked like a phone book. You all don't even know what a phone book looks like, but really thick. And they had all 12 episodes already written, and they wanted me to be the fairy godmother. And you know, I'm just an old actor, and when somebody offers me a job, I say yes. And oh my gosh, everybody is so wonderful. All the young, so you know, everybody else in the project is half my age, but for people who don't know, Wish It Inc., think The Office, you know, think Stephen Merchant in The Office, but it's magic. Everybody's magic. And I'm the fairy godmother is the CEO, and I have a fairy working for me, and a fountain wish granter, and a dandelion wish granter, and I have a genie, you know, who has...
And a birthday clown.
And a birthday clown, and all these people grant wishes, and we have very silly problems that we work through, and the last episode has just been released. And I've had a wonderful time seeing all my young friends working, and you know, John and I were down in London yesterday. We went to a movie, and a trailer, I wish I could remember the trailer for the upcoming film. But anyway, one of the young actresses that I worked with is in this film that's coming out soon, so I'm hoping that Wish It Inc. launches a bunch of careers, mine too. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Just before we answer another question, I'll just introduce the other gentleman that's just walked into the room. This is Leon Chiro, who's our cosplay guest.
Leon!
Away from Italy. There's also a photo at the back there as well.
So we have another question. I think Tom went in there a bit quicker.
To all of the guests, at the expense of falling into cliche, what is best in life?
Oh.
Being married, Tom.
This is what we call being served.
Now, the best thing about being married is you go from a state in your young life of constantly figuring out how you're going to have sex with anyone to a state where you know, both of you kind of want to have sex, but there's a really good TV show on, so why don't we wait?
It's really clear and I already know that that's true. I would, but there's an episode of Community on in a minute, so could we not?
That's what a fold-out sofa's for. Netflix is a wonderful thing.
The best things in life are small joys, I think. Small joy. I run my whole entire life on the basis of just cramming in as many tiny little joyful moments, whether it's a lie-in or a cup of tea, or in my case, just the knowledge every day that I'm not going to work. I never really wanted to be like a full-time MC. I just didn't want to go to work, and yeah, so that's probably the best thing in life for me. Just cramming in life in tiny, simple joy every day. What about you, Deadly Assassin?
I think the best thing in life is killing my opponents. Yeah, you saw me a few times doing that, I think. No, seriously, for me the best thing in life is enjoying every single moment we have by doing a simple thing, sharing it with somebody special. Everything you do, every adventure, every happiness you have in your life, you have to enjoy. If you don't, by sharing it. If you don't share that with nobody, you don't have nothing and nobody to speak with after you do it. So that's for me the best thing in life, sharing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And of course, having fun and enjoying everything you do, from your job, from your studies. You always have to find something that makes you happy. If you don't have something that makes you happy, you will never do that with ease and with how can I say? Fomento? Do you know what is fomento? Yeah, do you know that? Okay, so anyway, for who doesn't know fomento, fomento is an Italian word meaning charge, happiness. It's a way to live, you know, and it's my way, it's my religion, it's my way to live my life. Always charge and jumping, killing.
You have to mention killing again.
Yeah, of course. I can't live without killing.
Fantastic. Okay, we had a question in the front row.
One for the professor. What was your favourite song from your album to kind of write and put together? What's your favourite one of them?
This Is My Horse is probably my favourite one, just because it was so easy. I enjoyed writing it so much, and just I like the humour of having something I can just repeat ad infinitum on the basis that if I say it often enough, it will get funnier, I'm sure. And you remind me of a car, because I was always very aware that as an MC I never did any love songs or any songs about girls and stuff, and it was very hard for the professor to approach that. But by remembering how wildly incompetent he is at all things, that it was quite easy to channel that into a song. And it's fun to do live as well. It's fun to prance around and do a love song live.
I've got red line. That's what is it? Red line, bleach. It's going to get crazy.
They're
Okay.
using an explosion, so...
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you go first. Navy Hoodie was first.
Sorry, okay.
That.
Yep, you're first.
I'm first, okay. This is a question for Lena and your husband. I've been dabbling in extra and acting for about 5 years now, and I really do like America and all that sort of thing. How easy would it be to actually sort of get some roles over being English?
On the way back from London, we were actually talking about this with Naomi and Matt. And for someone your age, I think you might want to come over and take a course. And perhaps come over on a student visa. Because I know it's rather difficult to come to the States now, oddly enough. It's that whole Patriot Act mess.
Well, yeah, but I don't know that I would let that discourage you at all. I mean, that kind of stuff. I think, the main thing that you're going to find when you get over there is the first thing they're going to want you to do is learn how to speak like an American. Because, let's face it, you look like a thug. You know, and you look dangerous, and like you could be very unpleasant to people, and so they're going to want you to be thugs and stuff like that. If you're talking about film work as opposed to theater work, That's what you're interested in. I mean, I would definitely go. I mean, I would go young. I would go as soon as possible. Saying that it's going to be, how easy is it going to be? I don't think that easy has anything to do with it at all. Yeah, there are literally 80,000 union actors in Los Angeles, and they all want work. So I don't want to make it sound easy, but I think it'd be a great adventure. And if you don't do it, you'll always wonder what would have happened if you did. So I would absolutely say, sure, get your work visa together, go over there. You know, one thing I'll tell you, the smartest thing my friend Bob Morrissey ever did when he went to LA is he looked through the acting professional publications and found out which associate director for which TV show was teaching an acting class. And he would always take those acting classes. He'd take like 5 acting classes from 5 different associate directors at once. Not because he needed to learn how to act, but because it's a great way to audition for associate directors. Okay, they get to know your work, then they call you in for these shows. So figure out a way to save up some money because you're going to need like 5 different headshots. Your headshot that makes you look like an executive, your headshot that makes you look like a doctor, your headshot that makes you look like a hoodlum, your headshot that makes you look like, you know, a teen idol, whatever, you know, and because directors have no imagination at all. And so, you know, if you have a headshot with a suit and tie, well, he can't be our drug seller. He has a suit and tie on. He obviously can't wear any other clothes. So, you know what I mean? I mean, it's almost that bad. And then you want to take acting classes from as many associate directors as you can. You know, watch TV shows, see who, not the director, but the associate director, and then check the professional publications and see which one of those guys are teaching acting classes, and they all do. So I hope that helps. It's insane. It's an insane industry. It's an insane business. Nothing's easy. It's all weird. But that's at least a good couple of steps to take. Okay.
It's hard for fun. Just being so excited and so fun when you're actually doing it. It actually makes it fun.
Right. Well, and also I think the other thing that I would really suggest for any young person who wants to get into acting, particularly into film acting, is keep a constant lookout for students who are doing films. Young people who are, you know, you want to get to know directors and writers and photographers and all these people that put movies together. So, I mean, because if you can even get in a movie that doesn't pay you anything, that's going to give you some, you know, something to put on your reel. That's what they call it, your reel. Okay. Right. And that's going to be able to get you a better agent, a more powerful agent, and stuff like that. So it's really, I mean, it's like people ask us how to get involved in voice acting for computer games. And for young people, the best thing you do is meet people online who want to put a game together for nothing. Portal was originally a student game called Vernacular Drop. Narbacular Drop. And they put this game together as a senior project. Gabe Newell happened to see it, and he hired them all at Valve to do games. So this, you know, we have the internet out there, and it's really a great way. You know, we were just talking about Wish It Inc. and one of the women on Wish It Inc. we think we just saw in a trailer for a major Hollywood film. So, and that was put together on, you know, on wing and a prayer, you know, spit and glue and duct tape. So always be on the lookout for projects to get involved in. Okay, so I hope that's some good info for you.
IMDb is good. I've got 3 credits on that now.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
see,
Yeah.
you're already going.
Just looking at like, just being able to look at Star Wars, seeing that it's actually knowing all of the person that does hiring through that and emailing off of that, having it all on there as a normal.
Right, yeah.
He's saying that takes the right steps forward.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I wouldn't, you know, if you only speak with a British accent, that's going to
Limit you.
limit you. You know, I mean, if you just get on it and learn how to speak with an American dialect, that will, you know, even if it's a Southern dialect or a New York dialect or whatever, anything like that you can do, that's going to open up a lot more jobs. But you'll certainly be on the short list when they need Brits. So, you know, so there's an upside and a downside. You know what I mean? Right, exactly.
Good stuff. Okay, big video on the end.
Hello, this is for everyone. What has been the strangest thing that happened to you at a convention?
You go first.
Actually, I have a lot of strange things, and I really don't know one in particular to tell you. You know, every convention is kind of strange, you know, in some way. I think maybe just thinking. One day I was with friends, you know, and I just got lost in the convention because everything was kind of changed, you know. I was having the cosplay contest, I was leading, and they changed everything completely. So we were kind of, where do we have to go, what happens, and it was very strange because actually we wrong the day of the convention, you know, and it was not the competition that day, so it was everything strange, and simply because we just missed the day. Nothing particular anyway, I'm gonna think about it and I will reply after.
Increasingly, my life feels like just a series of really strange moments sort of pinned together with the occasional bit of reality. So I often find myself in situations that I just can't really, I'm not really even sure how I got there. I think probably there was a sort of pinnacle moment, because a lot of conventions are lovely, but you know, they kind of, you know, you do a lot of the same sort of things with lots of lovely people, a lot of boozing and so on. But last year at the SFX Weekender, I sort of ended the night riding around on my little hobby horse with Craig Charles and Des Skin, who's this like comics legend, but he was dressed as the Pope. And there's a couple of dwarves, and there were 3 people dressed up as Jeffrey, and we're all in a tiny caravan doing shots. And I just for a moment was kind of outside of it going, this is what I signed up for. This is how it should be.
That was clearly at the wrong party at that SFX.
It was a happy moment. Although just as often I'm in a travel lodge in Swindon on a Tuesday night on my own weeping. So there's a balance. Some.
Well, I can't even remember which con this happened at, but a young lady wanted me to sign her arm because then she was going to go get my signature tattooed.
Wow.
And that seemed too much.
There's a lot of pressure, isn't there, to get your signature right? I did that with someone and I misspelled my own name.
But you know, John and I love coming to conventions because we never know what's going to happen.
Well, it's great. I mean, being the old married couple at these conventions, we always hear about the strange things that happened when we were up in our room asleep. You know? I mean, you know, the great thing to us about coming to, I mean, how can a strange thing happen to you at a convention? I mean, what does that sentence mean? I'm in a room with people dressed like you guys. How does that get stranger? I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. I didn't go to one con by myself because Ellen couldn't go, and a very attractive young lady who was dressed in a costume that probably covered 4% of her body really tried to get me to go up to a party. And I'm so old and married and dense that I didn't even realize that she was trying to, you know, that she was coming on to me until I got home, like 2 weeks later. I thought, oh, wait a minute, she was trying to have sex with me. So that was, but she was, and then Ellen and I went back to that same con the next year, and she came back up and almost apologized to me for having come on to me because she loves Ellen, she loves GLaDOS and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't have the heart to tell her that I wasn't really aware that she was coming on to me.
Oh yeah, that was great. And actually, I brought one of the posters that'll be in the charity auction. So, you know, something else, but actually Guillermo del Toro's people contacted my agency. They knew John and I were with the Actors Group. And my agent sent me an email that said, Guillermo del Toro is interested in using your voice in his next film. And I wrote him back immediately. I said, that got my attention. And, you know, they just worked it out. I was paid as a day player, and I think I did like 5 days of recording. And the first day I recorded, of course I did all the recording up in Seattle, and Del Toro was down at a studio in LA, and we were linked up through what's called a phone patch. So I never saw him at that point, but he was directing me in my headphones. You know, I was recording for Gypsy Danger, and he told me what he wanted. And the first recording session, he brought his little daughter, because they're big Portal 2 fans. So he brought her along to meet me. And I said, you know, it's all just talking. Hi, how are you? And then when he completed the movie, and of course this was 3 years of his life, he took this movie very seriously because he loved the monster films and anime from his childhood. And he worked on Pacific Rim for 3 years. So when they had the cast and crew screening down in LA, we were invited, and we went down, and I actually got to meet him in person, which was very thrilling. And he's such a nice man, you know. To most of you guys, he's old, but he's only 42, so he seems very young to me. And he's a wonderful artist and a very caring artist, and he put so much effort into that film. And when it was screened in Seattle, we took one of our nephews with us, actually 2 nephews, but one of our nephews had lived in Japan for 4 years. And I asked Alessandro about, you know, the young woman who played the heroine, protagonist. And he said, no, you know, she's not famous, but the child actress, the little child who, the Japanese child screaming when the kaiju were coming in. Alessandro told us she is a huge star in Japan.
Of course, they don't know who Alessandro is.
Right, that's my nephew. I already explained that.
Or did you? Okay.
If you've been listening.
I wasn't.
He never listens to me.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. But it was a wonderful experience, and once again, I just felt like I was working with a creative artist who really cared about what he was producing, really cared about it.
More of a request than a question for Leon. Can you give us your best British impression?
What did I do?
Your best British impression, your best accent. That's like trying to put on a British voice. What's the best way to describe this? Your accent, so change your voice so it sounds like me.
Cambia la voce, la sua voce, cambia.
Ah, okay. Should I start to talk like, I don't know, like British accent?
Yes.
I guess. I'm not that good on speaking on that, but I can reply to one of your questions with that accent.
Sean Connery!
I don't know what to say.
You move your mouth, I'll do Sean Connery.
Okay.
If I wanted to have bad sex, I'd stay home with my wife.
Movie magic, everybody. Cool. Question from this side of the room. Lady at the back. What's you? Is that me?
I have one very quick question for Mr. and Mrs. Ballas. I would like to hear your best British accent, so that the Queen's English, if that's okay.
So you're talking about received pronunciation. Is that what we're talking about? Received pronunciation, so that we're talking like very snooty British people. Yes. I think that you'll find that snooty British people not only feel superior to other British people, but to all people. And rightly so, because they know how to speak, and no one else does.
And I don't believe that British people have sex, do they? Do they? How did you all get here?
Cabbages.
Cabbages, yes. Or the virgin birth, of course, Church of England. Yes, all right. Oh, I heard the wonderful thing there's going to be a gay wedding today, isn't there? I heard on the news after midnight.
Which is great because gay people don't have sex either because they never have children. Very British. My favorite British accent that I just learned the last time I was in London, we had this tour guide, and he would talk about the cabinet war room, and he always talked like this. And it's like, that is a great accent. And I just wonder how that guy ever gets laid.
Because he gets laid by girls who speak the same.
Right. Oh, yes, let's do it. All right, my back. Right. Put down the knickers. We're going to have some sex now. Right, I'm almost there. All right. I just love this guy.
Sorry, this one's for Ellen only. There were apparently several drafts of the Portal script that were voiced where GLaDOS was a lot harsher to the players. How did you react to these scripts? She was a lot more like vicious, really.
Well, actually, and I always tell people this, there was only one line that I really questioned. And I actually stopped and I told, Jay Pinkerton and Eric Wolpaw and Bill Van Buren, I said, I really think this is too mean. I don't want to say this. And we talked about it for a little bit, and I said, well, yes, I'll record it. Because, they're paying me. They're paying me for my time. So I'll record everything they want me to say. And ultimately, it did not end up in the game. Because I think they decided that it was too mean as well. That's what I'm not telling people. I never tell people what that line is.
The line was, I think you're British.
Cool. One more question. Go for it. Man with the notebook.
Just a quick one, really. I do acting and voice acting myself, stage and voice acting. Been trying to get back into it after a good long break. The question I've been asking a few voice actors is, how did you, when you got into acting, what did you do to support yourself through the initial stages, like as a day job?
Oh, you guys, I worked for a phone sex company. Yes! And the thing is...
That's how we met.
No, it's interesting, it was in New York City, and John and I had just gotten married, and I didn't do the calls, but I mean, technology has changed so much. But this is back in 1987, and I would go down to the office, and I worked from 4 p.m. until 11 p.m., and the people, there were some women, but it was mainly men, would call the office, and I would take their credit card information. They had to do it that way. That's the way the technology worked. And so I would take the credit card information, and then I would get their telephone number, and I would have one of our operators call them. And I did that for about 4 months until I got another theater job, and then of course I quit. But I've handed out flyers on the street. I have worked in phone banks selling Citibank credit cards. I was a hostess in a Chinese restaurant, and it was my job to keep the buffet filled. So for a while I even knew what all the Chinese food were called, because I would go back into the kitchen with all the Chinese chefs who didn't speak any English. And I would order, we need this, we need this tray, we need beef with snow peas, but I actually knew the Chinese for it. So I did just about anything.
I think in New York City, if you tell someone I'm an actor, they say, oh, which restaurant? That was funny. For the rest of you, you'll get it later. But I think that my advice to anybody who wants to make a living in the arts is what I call weaning yourself from your day job. So, two things: keep your expenses low and save your money. The wisest thing that Ellen ever said to me is we got to open up a 10% account. We put 10% of everything we make in that account. Because if you say have a theater job and the theater job ends, because they all do, if you don't have any money in the bank, you're desperate right then. If you have a month in the bank, right then you're looking for a job. If you have 3 months in the bank, you start thinking, maybe I can wait around for the next audition, hope I get another theater job. If you have 6 months in the bank, your perspective starts changing a lot. And if you have a year in the bank, all of a sudden you're a full-time actor. If you're not working, you're just an unemployed full-time actor. So, I mean, yeah, various people have, I think, you know, for the people that I know, because there's so many talented actors out there, and most of them aren't fortunate like us, and most of them have to do something else for a living. But every one of them has, oh yes, I found this great job, I work at this place where they're very flexible and let me out when I get a theater gig or something like that. The nice thing about voice work now versus voice work in the old days is that you don't have to go down to a recording studio to audition, which made it very hard to have a day job. Now you can audition on your computer at home and send it in every time you want to. And fortunately with voiceover gigs, they can always work around. You know, if you need to go in first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening because you have some other job, they can pretty much do that. They don't care. You don't have to coordinate with lighting people or camera people or other actors or anything else. So that really helps. And other than that, you know, I mean, it's just, Harrison Ford worked construction. You know, everybody does something. But
lots of people drive cabs because that's also something that they can do for a while, make money, and then they get a theater gig and they can stop. But really, I want to stress what John said. If we make $100, we save $10 religiously. And we've had to do that, but it's really kept us from having to do phone sex again.
Yeah, you know, it's like if you want a career in the arts, your first thought is, how can I keep from having a day job so that I can concentrate on what I want to do? And most of that is, you know, well, okay, there's got to be a smaller apartment than this. There's got to be some broom closet somewhere that I can pay low rent on, and yeah, maybe I can get away without a car or pants or food, you know, and stuff like that, and then save your money when you get the gig.
Okay, how are we doing? We're a little bit late, so we're gonna. We've got a couple more questions. Right at the back, lady, the straight jumper.
I had a question for Dr. Elemental. It's about tea.
Oh yes.
Are you any good with tea?
I'm reasonably well qualified.
Well, it's more a question of how did tea help you break into sort of your hip-hopping? How did it give you that sort of British hip-hop attitude?
It's everything, isn't it? It's like the super serum to Steve Rogers, isn't it? It runs through every aspect of life. But I was doing the kind of, it was weird how that song came up, because I was doing The Professor just as part of a larger sort of freak show, really, that I was part of. And doing the odd little songs about, sticking different animals together. And a friend of mine suggested I should do one about tea, and I really, it sounds a bit cheesy, but it actually was the kind of ignited everything for me, because it was, you know, one of the keys to getting a song that a lot of people like is obviously a shared experience. And what could be more shared on a frequent basis than a jolly nice cup of tea? So the combination of that and there not being tons of raps about cups of tea, Wu-Tang Clan have avoided the whole subject, so it was just there for me to play with.
Milk first or tea first? I had that question.
Well, I tend to be a bit more quantity over quality, to be honest. As long as it comes in like a large amount. I tend to put tea first. And I know that flies in the face of conventional wisdom, but I think it makes for a nicer cup.
Bags or leaves?
Oh yes, yeah, bags, leaves, anything. Box, just stuff it everywhere.
You just start chewing on the tea bags.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop drink the plug, just there you go.
Sticking them all over my flesh like nicotine patches. Covered in now. When I sweat, it's brilliant.
To be fair, I'm wearing about 80. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. One more question. Someone who hasn't asked one before. Right at the back.
That's a question for John. What was it like working on Team Fortress 2?
It's hilarious. I mean, the writers at Valve are just hilarious people, and the lines that they come up with are great, and they let me improv quite a bit. I think the most fun I had working on Team Fortress 2 was doing the Meet the Sniper video, which was just a brilliant idea, I thought, just in the first place, and the way they pulled it off. And it was quite a process. They had me in and talked to me for a while, actually, and kind of showed me the concept of the video, and then had me record some lines, and then they changed the video quite a bit, had me record completely different lines, and it went through about 3 iterations before they finally found something that they liked. It was good. It was fun.
Fantastic. Any more questions? Gentleman in purple suit.
Professor, give us your best American accent.
In a world far from here, there is a man, a lone man, fighting for what he believes in, fighting for tea and trousers, and the love of a good monkey.
Fantastic. Go for it.
Leon, what's your favourite cosplay to wear? Out of all of them, and there's a lot of them.
The awares I want? I mean,
Any of the costumes that you've got, so the ones you've brought with
Best
you,
one,
or
your
Titus.
favourite,
I personally love your Titus one.
Oh, thanks a lot. Actually, I have to admit that every character I choose for myself, it's a character that I really feel in my heart. So I can't say that I have a favorite character or a favorite cosplay I did, but I have to reply to your question, and I think I will reply with Caius Ballad from Final Fantasy XIII too. It's because it's the perfect balance between heart, between sacrifices I did to do that costume, and for the difficulty of the artisan stuff, you know, for the sword, for all the armor, and it took me so much, and I did it all by my own. So, you know, when you do something 100% by your own, by creating that a way to do that armor in the best way, and you do it by heart for a character that you just get emotionally by thinking to him, it's something priceless. But generally, all the costumes all the cosplays I interpreted and I had with me and I did, it's everything made by heart. So hope the reply was okay. And Titus is another one because he's representing a big part of my heart in doing cosplay. Because he was the first cosplay I did, and after I did the second version of him, improved with more skills. But he will always... Yes, and my main advice for all the cosplayers is to do always what they like, what they love, and to always choose characters by heart, because you will always see the difference in interpretation, and you will always have more fun by interpreting a character that you really love. So, that was my reply. Thanks.
Fantastic. One more question.
Fight!
Go for it.
It was is it John? Yeah. You know you were doing your Cockney accent earlier. They don't call it sex. They call it "How's your father?" So could you do it the voice with saying "How's your father"?
How's your father?
A bit of "How's your father"?
How's your father? Now, is that rhyming slang?
Yeah, a bit of "How's your father"?
What's it rhyme?
It doesn't really rhyme. I think
It's just slang.
It's kind of like don't tell your dad about this.
I said, how's your father? Right, that's it. What do you think about having a little bit of how's your father? How's your father? How's your father? You want to know how's your father, babe? How about you do it for your father? Yeah, I'll be bloke. Pack of wood. I don't know. I love Cockneys because they're sensitive and warm.
Who have you met? I don't know. Have you met anyone else you met?
He's met hungover ones.
Oh, hungover ones.
Hungover ones are sensitive because they don't want to hear anything. They want to be quiet and calm.
Right. So is it? You want to ask your father? They're just sensitive people. How many great artists have been Cockneys?
Many great artists.
I think Michelangelo was a Cockney, wasn't he? Sophocles was a Cockney.
Shakespeare.
Definitely a Cockney. Right.
You know they're a Cockney when they're a proper Cockney. Proper that one.
Was that something like what you wanted to hear? I think that you're perverted. Thank you.